Welcome to another war game review from theplayers8.com. My name's Alexander.
And I'm Grant.
And today we're taking a look at Blue and Grey Deluxe Edition from Decision Games. So this is a brand new edition of the original Blue and Grey. So this has in it both of the two original Blue and Grey quadri game packs, is what they were called. A nice mouthful there.
Yeah.
And so there's 8 battles in this, and Decision Games tied all of those together, refreshed the counter graphics, refreshed the map artwork, although it still holds very true to the original.
Got it. And that's by Joe Yost, I think.
Yes, and then
the art credits.
And then they put all of the rules, all of the SPI clarifications, all of the optional options are in here. All of the battles are all in one big old book, but War Games Rules is like 4 pages.
Not a complex system.
No.
In any way, shape, or form.
So this this is a 2-player hex encounter American Civil War game. You will play individual battles. So in this one we have Antietam, Cemetery Hill, Chickamauga, Shiloh, Chattanooga, Fredericksburg, Hooker and Lee, which I'm pretty sure is like 7 days.
Okay, campaign
type stuff. I'm not 100% sure about that. And Wilderness. And
we played Shiloh.
We played Shiloh, yes.
Which was fun.
Yes.
The terrain was really cool. It was a major character in the game.
And
which was cool.
The other one I played was Champion Hill in the Road to Vicksburg. That was also the case. So I presume that's the case in all of these, where the terrain is a massive factor into it, as it was historically, but they really build that in.
Yeah.
Where you play the Ancients games where they played on an open field, terrain is meaningless, basically. Yeah. So it's cool to play around with that. And Shiloh, famously known for kind of fighting in the forest in the rough terrain, backed up against the river with nowhere to retreat.
This was a Union victory, right, historically.
Yes.
Although it was a Pyrrhic victory. One of those that I think Grant became known as a butcher from this campaign, if I remember correctly.
It was very they're incredibly heavy casualties. I think this was heaviest casualties
to that point.
And it was they won,
but there were so many
they left the field.
Yeah.
And so it was like, was this a win?
Sure.
Which there was so much of that in those first couple of years as well. But so I know many of you have played this game and this system.
Did we find out when this was made?
1975.
Okay, 75.
Decision Games put this out for the 50-year anniversary of that original Blue and Grey.
Okay.
And so...
And this feels very 1975.
Yes.
It's basic, what I would classify as good and sound war game mechanics.
Like, this was one of the first ever war games ever made.
Yeah.
Right? Like, historically speaking, of how many we have now, this was one of the very first ones. And you can tell,
which is kind of cool, yeah.
You move all your guys.
Yep.
You shoot with all your guys.
You do all your fights.
I do all my moves. I do all my fights. There's a little CRT. We compare ratios. You roll a 1d6 on that, right? That's pretty much the whole game. Mm-hmm. We've come a long way since then, but that doesn't mean that there isn't a place for something that is 4 pages of rules. You set up your guys, and you play an entire Civil War battle in 1 to 2 hours. There's a huge merit to that. There's a credit to that. And this would also play really well solo as well.
Oh, 100%.
Play around, push your counters around, try something crazy, and see what happens. Because it's easy to learn.
Easy to remember.
Can set this, and all of the maps are this size.
Yep.
So they're small. Like, this is a small footprint game compared to other games.
And I have about 20 counters, and you have about 25 counters.
Yeah.
Right? So it's very, not counter dense. It's very manageable. I use tweezers because my sausage fingers were kind of knocking.
Yeah, when you've got the lines and they're crushed up.
But you only have two units that can stack, so it's not like you have 4 or 5 units.
Yeah.
But yeah, low counter density, which I think is good. Very easy to solo both sides. No hidden information. And it's just classic, right? It's got your zones of control. You've got pretty basic retreat rules.
Yeah.
You can't retreat, you're eliminated. I mean, that's kind of standard stuff in war games.
Yeah, move through the terrain with different movement points. Some of the terrain gives you a defensive effect. like, it's
Yeah.
all the stuff that we know and are familiar with without a ton of extra chrome. Like, the chrome in this particular battle was there's two little gunboats, and they are identical to artillery, except they just move on the water.
And they're worthless. I mean, they really are worthless.
I mean, if you're using your gunboats, it's because things have gone so badly, and you've probably lost the game already.
Yeah, I think if you can get to Pittsburgh Landing, those two gunboats probably have a lot of action.
Well, they're gonna prevent that.
Yeah, right.
But like, if you're using the gunboats like that,
you're in trouble.
It's bad.
You're in trouble.
You will have lost so much stuff.
But what I would say, though, is the way the victory conditions are written, I had to have, twice as many strength point destruction as I had, and I ended up with a marginal victory?
So yes, this ended up as a Confederate marginal victory because you had inflicted a ton of losses to
42.
me. I couldn't make up, so I needed to make up half the losses that you had inflicted on me onto you.
Yeah.
So you had like 42, I think it
42,
was.
42, and you had 16.
I had 16. If I could have got myself to like 23, 24, I would have won as a marginal because I controlled Pittsburgh Landing still.
Yeah. Well, and it was interesting because the way we talked about the terrain being a main character, the terrain is so difficult here and gives the defender such a huge advantage. Once I had pushed you out of those foothills and rough forest and inflicted those losses, all of a sudden taking Pittsburgh Landing wasn't that important for me.
Yeah.
It was just holding the field and making you attack me, and ultimately you attacked me. I think you lost a couple units, and I picked off a couple of your small units to kind of seal
Well, I think
game.
That's what makes a really interesting game, even though this system is that simple. The rules are really easy to learn, quite light. There's still a lot of depth in
the maneuver and the using of the terrain.
maneuver and tactical aspects are very deep, but it's the case of I also like at that larger level of like, hey, I inflicted a whole bunch of losses. Like I made good use of it and I got some good results, and like I picked up a bunch of points. I don't need to break myself trying to take the geographic victory points as well. I can pull back because the newspapers back home will have deemed this as a major victory, and I've done what I came to do.
Yeah.
Like I won the battle on the day. Like we eviscerated a whole bunch of units, and so taking the actual landing,
it wasn't as important at that point. Now, had you not lost so many units in the early, we did some exchanges, which are very devastating, extremely devastating. Had that not happened, it might have required me to push harder.
Yeah, or to commit longer.
Right.
And you're looking, and it's trying to get attacks together where you can get onto the much higher ratios where you're going to do eliminations, or flanking people so there's nowhere to retreat to do eliminations, all of which requires a lot of input from you to do.
Yeah.
And so whilst I moved my guys, and even the cavalry and the infantry have the same number of movement points.
Which was something we kind of laughed at.
It's a little archaic, right? The artillery move as far as the cavalry do.
Yeah.
Every other game doesn't do that. But like, this isn't that kind of game.
No.
But all that to say, even as simple as it is, actually making it work and the tactics and trying to get the results that you need to and build your stacks and build your attacks and trying to outflank a maneuver is really, really important. And there's a lot to that, and it's fun.
Well, and I think I'm hearkening back to something Mark Herman taught me last summer at WBC, the geometry of American Civil War combat. I thought it was fascinating. I'm not an expert on that in any way, but obviously Mark is. But he talked about maximizing your frontage to be able to draw the most fire or concentrate the most fire onto certain points. And that's why sometimes you would stagger these guys or leave this open because it's a trap, right? It's moving in, getting surrounded, so then I can counterattack you with 30 strength to your 10 and do a 3-to-1. I found the terrain and the way the roads were set up really forced some very difficult choices, and I thought that was the best part of the game. Well, or at least this scenario.
And how many times was it like, I don't want to advance after combat?
Yeah, exactly.
Because you're like, if I advance,
then I put myself at risk
to
of
just be
being
then I'm gonna be
counterattacked by
surrounded.
3 stacks.
And I think that's one of, I think a lot of line of battle type games have this, but it's just I always enjoy that part of the decision of like,
Yes.
ooh, do I
Yeah.
say? But and in this game, you can only advance with one combat unit,
So it makes it that much harder.
It makes it more cautious, I think.
Yep.
I'm less, I'm less inclined to do it. Whereas every other game is like, all the attackers can
advancing.
move in, whatever.
Although it is interesting, though, the way the rules are written, when I'm adjacent to you on your turn, you must attack me.
Yes.
Right? There's no choice about it. If you can bring three stacks against that, that's great. But if you have a contiguous and well put together line, you're going to be spread out and have to spread your attacks out.
Which invariably means you will only, like, the way that the counters, especially in this scenario, the way that the values on the counters are, you will only ever be doing one-to-one style attacks, typically.
I felt like 80% of what we did was one-to-one.
Yeah, or it's like either one side of that, and what that means is those kind of middling results, you will never do eliminations.
Nope,
You can
they're
only
always
ever do
retreats.
retreats one way or the other.
Yep.
And so again, it plays into that, this is a game of positioning and maneuver. You get all your
Yep.
lines together, you roll all the dice, these guys break, this flank, you guys retreat, this flank, oh, my guys retreat. And all
Yep.
of a sudden, it's trying to make use of that, and so like a lot of these games, I think I actually really like that.
Yeah, I loved it.
Where it's like wave after wave, retreat after retreat, moving, instead of like some of the games where it's like, this guy dies, and then just like you collapse the whole line and everyone dies
Right.
and is eliminated. What that represents might just be guys fleeing, but that back and forth of maneuver, and it's really hard to eliminate guys in this.
Yep, very
Well,
hard.
when you can do it, boy, do you feel it.
It feels good.
But I like that's in this game, and I like that part of it as well.
Well, it's interesting when you look at the 1-to-1 and 2-to-1, there are no eliminations, which once again, I felt like that was 80 to 90%
It was
of our attacks.
Most of them.
Then as you start getting up 3, 4, and 5-to-1, there are what are called either defender eliminated
1
or
in 6 chance. Not
1 in 6
high.
ones. You're rolling low on this with no DRMs, by the way.
Yep.
The DRMs aren't DRMs, they are doubling of strength points from terrain.
Yeah, it's just effects ratios.
But the exchange is what becomes very, very risky. And if you look at this, 3, 4, and 5-to-1, a 6 is always an exchange for the attacker. That's bad.
It can be.
It can be unless you have two units, one a huge one and then the other one a smaller one, because you can just lose that smaller guy.
But that's I think that was because we had a couple of exchanges. I think that was some of the really interesting decisions.
It was.
Stuff is the more units you stack, I get these better odds. I'm more likely to get the defender eliminated. But you're also more likely to get an
the
exchange.
yeah.
And an exchange, the defender's eliminated. Great.
Which you still get those points, but then you're going to lose
An equal number of strength
Yep.
points. And if you can't make change, you might lose
lose
more
them.
guys.
Yeah,
or you have to lose a really big guy. Because
Yep.
if I had 2 8s stacked together and I attacked your 2, I'm going to lose an 8 and you're going to lose a 2.
Yeah. I'll make that change every day.
Yeah, like
I will make that every day if you can do that.
and so I think that was genuinely one of my favorite rules in this, and don't know if I've ever seen it as an explicit rule in any other game.
No, I would agree with that.
Where if you're up at like 5-to-1, I think it's specifically if you're at 5-to-1 or more, you can opt to go down
Yep.
on the table. You can always roll at a lower column.
What was that? What was that called?
I don't know if I had it.
Did they have a name for it?
I'm not sure. But it was like, I was like, oh, that's so cool.
It's almost like you're not sending your full force in. You're kind of just holding. Yeah, it's fascinating.
Which normally you like can't. Yeah, gosh, man, I have to figure out where that was. But it was really, really neat that they were like, hey, no, you can do this because
you can downgrade your attack and
to avoid exchange. Now you're rolling on a 3-to-1, 2-to-1. You're much less likely to eliminate them. You're then going to like we're just pushing them out.
But at that point, you have to ask yourself, what do I need?
What's the risk?
Do I need eliminations, which don't come very easy, and really come at the risk of you losing guys, or do I just want to push you back and get you out of a advantageous position? I'm not sure it's
I'll have to
important,
fish
but
out and find it. But it was so cool that that was like an
yep,
explicit rule.
when you read that to me, I thought, wow, that's because I almost see it as you have a superior force, and you decide, oh, I'm holding back the right wing, like I'm commanding them not to attack, and we're attacking with less strength.
Which is normally not allowed.
No, yeah.
Like if I've got 2 guys in a hex,
You gotta
attacking,
attack.
you must attack with both of them.
Yep.
And so only if you choose to go
5 or
down
6 to
on this rather than this, so you get the odds out of them.
It's interesting.
But there's still that risk that they get.
I want to
consumed.
know what that's called.
Yeah, I'll have to
But
fish it out.
we
Where
can
was
look
the
at that.
results.
But I thought that was extremely interesting. The thing that I also thought was interesting when you tandem that and pair that with the way terrain works, most of this terrain, the bad terrain, right? So you've got your rough forest hexes and your rough hexes, the defenders are doubled.
Yeah.
And if you could see the map, and I think you're going to show the map.
Yes.
Basically the whole middle of the board is rough and forest rough. And it's very key for the defenders to choose the right locations to put your units in, because they can become nigh impregnable, right? It can really make it almost impossible to make progress.
Yes.
You have to get extremely fortunate and also take some risk, because you only advance with one guy. You don't advance with both
so
units in your stack.
That's where you also get into, it's like, cool, the defenders are in their amazing terrain. How do I dislodge them? Well, I got to send guys around the flank.
Yep.
So that if I
make them retreat.
make them retreat, they will die.
Yep.
And so now they have to think about, do I have to pull back off this position?
Yep.
Preemptively. Because one lucky roll and you're, 9 and a 6, this is 15 points, double to a 30 defense.
Yeah.
If I can somehow make them retreat, but I've cut them with my zones of control, that's a lot of victory points for me, right?
And look at the one-on-one, 1-to-1 and 2-to-1. It's basically 50-50. The 1-to-1, it is a 50, right? 50-50. 1 to a 3 is defender retreat. 4, 5, and 6 is attacker. Now, when you get to 2-to-1, it's 1 to 4 defender retreat and 5 and 6. So, yeah, getting around that flank, but that's easier said than done.
In this one, very difficult.
Yeah, it's very difficult. The way the forest works and it
How
just makes
sticky
it
the zones
very,
of control are as well.
Just makes it very difficult.
But it's that emphasis in this game on moving.
Yeah.
Because I move my guys and I shoot my guys. That is genuinely like all the rules in this game.
Yeah.
But so how you go about prosecuting that is really, really important, because you don't have to think about all this extra rule stuff. It's get into the tactics of this. And there was a lot to enjoy there. It felt, for a rule book so small, quite meaty with the intricacies of what we were doing.
Well, when you explained the rules at the beginning, I thought, boy, this is going to be really basic.
Yeah.
And then we played 11 out of 13 turns, and you conceded because there was really no way.
It was done with it.
There was just no way to do it. And I remember by about turn 5, I'm like, oh, I get what I should be doing as the attacker. And then conversely, once I got the points that I needed, what I should be doing to fall back and make you.
And I think that's also something I love, is flip-flopping your position within a game. Because so many games, it's one person's the attacker, one person's the defender, and once you get the red hex, it's over. Whereas this one is, I was the attacker for a bit, now I'm going to be the defender for a bit. And I really enjoy that kind of ebb and flow that you get in the game, where that's meaningful.
Well, and I think there comes a tipping point where you have to make that decision.
Yeah.
Looking at the victory points, looking at the situation, looking at how much time is left, looking at the reinforcements that are coming. That was the other interesting thing. The Confederates got no reinforcements. So what I had was what I had. Now, I lost a total of 2 units, but they were big units.
Very big, yep.
A 9 and a 7, and I kind of cavalierly advanced a couple of times after combat, and I shouldn't have done that, because I'm not sure I would have lost that if I hadn't done that. But those are the decisions that you're going to have to make. And I agree with you, to have a scenario in a game like this where at the beginning I was this and then I ended up being this is very rare.
Yeah, I think most games it's one or the other.
It's either
and I loved
objectives
that in
or,
this.
yeah, it was very cool.
Yeah, I really like that. So what we'll do is I'm going to show you how the game works. So you can see this classic board that looks like something from 50 years ago. Well, it looks much nicer than that.
Yeah.
And then we'll wrap up with a few final thoughts. So here's a look at the board. Again, this is the Shiloh board, and it's double-sided, and there's 3 other boards in this game. This is the Confederate display, which has some victory points. The Union also has one, but I just couldn't squeeze it in the shot, but it's just looks the same as this. This is the System Play Aid card, which is single-sided. There's 2 of those, one for each player. There's a bunch of unique Play Aid cards, but those just have like setup stuff and reinforcement schedules for each of the different battles. So I don't have those on camera. But if you've played the old Blue and Grays, this has a very familiar feel to it, but they've just changed a few things color scheme-wise, made it a bit bulkier, like the numbers a bit bolder and easier to read, and it looks wonderful on the table. So how the game works, literally, you will move all your guys, and you will fight with all your guys. And then it goes to the other player, and they will move all of their guys, and they will fight with all their guys. That is the game. It is not more complicated than that. So what does that look like? Great question. So every unit in this game has 6 movement points, regardless of infantry, artillery, or cavalry. And as you can see, we're going to look at the terrain effects chart. There's not like, oh, for infantry, it's 1 movement point in a forest. For cavalry, it's 2. And for forests, for artillery, it's 3. Nothing like that. Everyone moves the same, very light, very abstract. They hadn't, that wasn't, there's no differentiators between, especially cav and infantry. Cav and infantry function the same, just cav have tiny numbers, typically, because they're smaller units. Artillery, however, are artillery in the sense that they have ranged fire, and there's some rules about when they're doing bombards at range, they don't suffer negative die roll results. Effectively, that's the entire rule. However, if artillery is adjacent and fighting normally, especially alongside infantry, they would suffer the negative results just as usual. But you will literally just move all of your units. There's no defensive fire or anything like that. At this particular scale, I think the hexes are such that there's not defensive fire. However, combat is mandatory. So that's where they kind of get you. If you move adjacent to someone, you must fight. So we're going to move all these guys up. And you really wouldn't do a lot of this. But we'll do a couple here just to kind of show you what's going on. Okay. I'm just going to move a couple because this is where things get important. You must attack as many different hexes as you possibly can without splitting your stacked units. I know that's kind of crazy, but I did all my moves. Great. Now I do all my fights. So, this stack and this stack must attack these guys. This stack and this stack must attack, but you can't have both these guys attack him. He must attack him, and he must attack him. Every hex that is eligible to be attacked must be attacked if possible. If these guys are here, the rule is you are never allowed to split your fire of your guys. So in this instance, you only attack one of them. But I can't support this attack by bringing a guy here. He'd have to attack a different guy. So you have to have like turned a flank or broken a hole to isolate units before you can really start doubling up. And so it forces your lines to fight as lines, or it forces you into maneuver. And so when we talk about this being a maneuver game, this is what we're talking about. You're really trying to move around to isolate units so you can get 2, 3, 4 hexes of units to attack them to really crush them. Because otherwise you're just forcing them back. And in a game that is also typically territory-based, that's also important. But this particular scenario was casualties-based, effectively. There was 1 hex that was worth any victory points, but this is effectively a casualties scenario. And in the other ones where there's a lot of victory points on the board, movement's really important, you might be less concerned about that, and you might just be like trying to move them all back with reasonable results. But trying to inflict casualties is really difficult unless you can maneuver, cut people off, outflank them, stack numbers. But the way that the combats work, forcing you to attack everyone, is such that so many of your attacks will be at middling or really low odds that it can be hard to crush people. It's about forcing them to retreat, and so you have to cut off their lines of retreat so they cannot, basically. So that's what we talk about when we talk about this being a maneuver game. But when we get to a combat, what does the combat look like? Well, nice and simple. We get an odds-based ratio based on all of our combined strength factors and terrain effects, and then we roll a d6 with no modifiers. So we'll do this little guy here. So I've got a 14. So I've got 24 Union points, and on the hill we've got 6 Confederate ones. They are in a forest. This is a forest rough hex. It's both rough and forest. Forest rough hex. Defender doubled in hex. So we've got 24 to 12. That's 2 to 1. We're going to roll on the 2 to 1 chart of the table. And it is as simple as that. We roll a d6. I probably should have rolled the Union die. What you going to do? I rolled a 6. Rolling low is good in this game. Rolling high is bad in this game, typically. 2 to 1. Attack or retreat. Like, great. So I literally just retreat. Boop. Just go back from where I came from. No big deal. If I had rolled a 1 on this 2 to 1, defender retreat. The defender would literally just move out of the space, and I could move up 1 and only one of my units. So I might consider moving up my biggest one, because now my 8 doubled is a 16. This guy, when he's attacking, is only a 6. He's not going to do that. Because if this guy moves up here, he can't attack me. He's going to have to attack one of these guys, and he doesn't have enough guys to swing around. And this is what ended up happening in our game. I couldn't take this point, and I really needed to, and so I conceded. If I'd have taken this, it then opens up this, he wouldn't have been able to counterattack, and the battle was lost at that point. So again, really interesting parts of the game in an extremely simple and extremely uncomplex manner. And then over here, it's the same thing, except I'm trying to fight his whole line with stacks of 1 to 1, except he's in a defensive terrain. So over here, all of a sudden, this 13 is a 26, and if I was attacking, you would never actually do this. I have 7 points, so I'm attacking on these like 1 to 4 odds, or maybe not quite that low, 1 to 3 or 1 to 4 odds, and there's a chance that I'm going to get killed. So this is where, instead of doing that, what I might do is these are all artillery pieces. I might add them all up, 5, 6, 7, plus 8. So I've got 15 going into here. I'm going to roll a 15 on his 26. So that's still 1 to 2. I'm going to roll on the 1 to 2 for a bombard. I'm just going to shoot him from range. Range is 2 or 3 hexes. I rolled a 1 on a 1 to 2, defender retreat. So he retreats. That's a bombard. Really not that complex. Again, if it's ranged artillery, if I'd have rolled like, oh, attacker eliminated, nothing happens to me, right? Realistically, I'm shooting my cannons at them, nothing happens. It's from very long range. So it's impossible to hurt yourself when you're bombarding people, but it's just very difficult to hurt them, especially if they're in good terrain. And this is all good terrain in this map, basically. That's actually not true. The forests really don't do anything, but you will use this terrain significantly. That's where most of the action's going to happen. The problem is this is an I go, you go game. So I did all my moves, I did all my shoots. Great, this is what happened. Then it's all his moves. Guess what? He's just gonna walk right back up. So unless you have a way to capitalize on the artillery, the bombards really don't do a whole ton. And so sometimes you need to do that to like keep people occupied from doing other things. But a lot of the time, especially if you have weaker forces, you spread out your artillery and use them like, rather than as batteries, as like, intersperse them into your lines as like good combat units. Like this is still a 5 and a 4. These are pretty strong. Now the little 2 guy down here, he's not going to do anything on a bombard on his own anyway. But just know that that's one of the kind of flaws of the game, is the artillery bombards don't do a ton. because there's no way to follow it up particularly. Even if you do it first, you could. So that's the only way to use them. But it's such a gamble. Is if I had moved infantry units, let's say here and here, and let's say I had these guys up here instead. Yeah, let's do this, because your own infantry don't block bombards. In this instance, I'm going to use all my artillery to bombard this guy, or if he was in range, here, let me put him here. So all these guys are trying to bombard these guys to make them retreat, and then I'm going to resolve this attack, who can now all double stack on this guy because these guys retreated. That is how you use it, but to set that up is so difficult. And then you're also banking on the luck of them actually getting you a result. And if they don't get you a result, this attack is going to absolutely be stunted and bloodied because you now have to make 2 separate attacks here instead of a 2-on-1. So using the artillery is very, very difficult, and actually making good use of it. But just know that that's kind of like a feature of the game, and that's what you get out of it. But literally, this is the game. I move all my guys, I shoot my guys. You move all your guys, you shoot your guys. Use a D6, you roll in a little combat ratio table. That's it. That's the whole game. You're going to go for a number of turns. You'll get some reinforcements. You're trying to take some points, if that's worth it for you. And they all have different kind of victory points and victory conditions in each of the scenarios. But a fun game, a light game, a not particularly involved game rules-wise, but still a lot of tactics and strategy in lining up, getting guys to where they are, trying to do the intricacies of making an attack work well so you can get favorable odds and favorable potential results. But it's not more complicated than that. This is almost literally the entirety of the rules. Like, there's zones of control, but they just are permanently sticky. Like, you can't leave a zone of control unless it's through advance after combat or from retreat from combat results. If you're ever forced to retreat and there's unblocked, like it's just zones of control, you're just eliminated. Like, that's the entirety of the rules right there. There's no supply, there's no nothing like that particularly. Not in the base scenarios, not in the base kind of rules anyway. But that's how the game functions. Really not that complex, but a lot to like. And what we'll do is a wrap up here with a few final thoughts. So that was a look at the board. I had a great time playing this. A lot of guys died. I do think it was interesting that probably the amount of guys died was about just about equal to the amount that I got as reinforcements as well.
Yeah, agreed.
So
yes.
If I could have hung on to a few more, would I have had stronger forces? But
right.
those first 2 turns where I'm like, running away, was just so many stragglers get eaten up, and I lost a lot of guys.
Well, and I think I used the advantage of the sticky zones of control to make it so you couldn't run away.
And that's...
and that turn 1 and 2, you had to move
it's
back. So what I tried to do, with my limited understanding of the game and the strategy, was try to make you stick where I felt I could beat you.
And if anything, next game would be even stronger, because now you've got a better grasp of what the numbers look like.
Yeah.
You're like, oh, okay, I would bring 1 additional guy to pin 1 more guy, or to like throw, because the guys who are stuck are stuck. And they're there to be mopped up.
Yep.
And those first 2 turns, you've got to make hay real early and capitalize on that before they can kind of form a line and figure out what they're trying to do.
But I would agree. I thought the tactics and the strategy were the best part of this game. Using the very simple rule set, very basic. I'm going to call it this very basic.
Yeah.
I think I made the comment as we were playing. I could see 2 12-year-old boys in their, dimly lit room in 1976. Their mom and dad had bought this for them.
This is not a child's toy, it's a 14 plus.
Well, whatever. But their mom and dad had bought this for them for Christmas. I'm sure many of you that was the case. They're sitting there and they're playing this game and they're going, oh, that was awesome. They're exposed to this hex encounter maneuver zone of control concept probably for the first time and realize, oh my gosh, this is amazing. And there were many games like that. We've played the Russian campaign, kind of a classic East Front war game, I feel like the same thing. People played those till the counters wore out.
Yes.
To me, these Quadra games, when they were originally out, probably were played to death. Now, today, I think I would say I would rather play some other types of games.
Sure.
But this was really solid and good for what it was.
And you can see why it was so beloved, right?
Yes.
And not just because it was, but like
it was
it's
good.
There's a
Yeah.
lot of tactical meat on 4 pages of rules.
Yeah.
And that's impressive, honestly.
It is.
And I love what Decision's done with they've got a much nicer blue tone.
Got it.
The original counters were like this color. And it's like kind of garish.
Yeah,
But-
these are definitely Union blue.
and they've got much bigger, nicer printed numbers on. Like it looks real nice. They've got great. There's 4 double-sided boards. All of them are mounted, and they just put it all in one big old box. And I think a lot of guys get to play with a childhood favorite once again, and kind of revisit some of that. This is a great thing to have on the shelf for a lot of people, I think.
well, and I also think we classified this game as a beer and pretzel style game.
Yes.
Although, I think the tactics make it a little more than beer and pretzel once you kind of figure those out.
Sure, but it's still like, I got 20 units, I got 20 units, we move
and
and
fight.
shoot. And like,
Yeah.
there's some little calculations, but it's not, you know,
Overly
it's
complex.
not Empire of the Sun where
Yeah.
it's like, okay,
Oh, yeah.
my brain.
Yeah, you could definitely be having a couple of beers as you played this. That's for sure.
Yeah.
Maybe 3 or 4 if you wanted to. But I very much
The
enjoyed
game
it.
doesn't last long enough to have
No.
that many.
And I think this scenario would have been 90 minutes.
Yeah.
Right? I think we got through 11 turns, I think at about 90 minutes because we were learning it as well. But I think that 13 turns is going to take you about 90 minutes.
Yeah, I think so.
Once
for
you get the
average
rules
person.
down. Which there's a great space and a great need for a 90-minute, meaty, fun, and interesting hex and counter war game. There's not a
Yeah.
lot of them out there.
No. Yeah, and you know, I think if this game was like designed from the ground up or made today, you might see 2d6 instead of 1d6 on
Right.
the tables. You might have some other different bits and pieces that people would want to throw in, but I think I just love where it stands as it is, partly as an artifact, but also something that is in modern days, got a great clean rule book, really easy to learn and play for people.
Yeah. And a deluxe edition is really nice. These are very nice mounted map boards. You already mentioned the counters. All the charts, very nice.
Yeah, so you got like your little play aid chart, and then they have different setup charts. So this is for Antietam for the Confederates, Hooker and Lee. So there's a whole bunch of different ones of those. And then Chancellorsville has its own little off-map display because there's all of those
Units
off-map
coming.
marching armies and
And
stuff as well.
Doesn't Fredericksburg have some really significant fortifications? Didn't we were talking about that?
Yes.
So that's one I would like to maybe try just because I want to beat my head against the wall. And
Fredericksburg
make no
would be a
progress.
great solo.
Yeah,
scenario.
right.
I'm not sure.
Wasn't that the way it was in Rebel Fury as well? I think
Yeah,
that's
it's,
one that you would want to play solo.
Fredericksburg is just like redoubts,
Yeah.
and those are ×3 defensive
just
values, and you're
crazy.
like, okay, nothing's happening there.
But yeah, I'm actually very pleased to see Decision Games kind of doing these deluxe edition. We played Red Dragon Green Crescent
Yes.
in December. It was a deluxe edition. Man, that was really good. It was
really
right?
good.
That was also, I would classify as a beer and pretzel style war game. Not overly complex, but some depth tactically and decisions. This is the same thing. So it's very interesting to see them doing these kind of reprints of these classic games. I would expect this to do very well.
I think so too. I think people will probably just buy it anyway because of what it is.
The nostalgia, probably.
But I think for people who aren't looking at something for nostalgia,
it plays well.
and it has a lot in it.
Yeah,
There's
surprisingly.
got 8 battles in it.
Yep.
And each of those battles is, we've got a lot of very different maps, so you can have very different terrain outfits.
Yeah.
And then you're looking at a really fun tactical experience hung on a very light rule set.
Yep.
You're going to be able to play this with almost anyone.
And there's nothing wrong with that, right? That there's a need for that in our hobby. I think too many times we have too many counters, too many rules, too long of turns. I mean, we've played some hex and counter war games where it's like 2 hours a turn.
Well, and I think back to our little monthly debrief where we talk about some of these classic games. For a game that's 50 years old, it holds up pretty well.
Agreed.
Like, there are some times you can tell it's 50 years old, but most of the time, like,
Yeah.
it's pretty good.
And maybe we really chose a good scenario because I really think tactically that was really good. But I'm sure the others offer a similar tactical challenge.
Yeah.
Except maybe
Well, and I
one
picked
or
this
two
one
of them there.
because very specifically, I didn't want to play Fredericksburg,
Sure.
but also, like this has Chickamauga in it. We've recently played a Chickamauga and Rebel Fury, and I was like, we don't do the same thing again. And so I was like, oh, let's do Shiloh.
Yeah.
Because I don't know if we played many Shiloh.
Well,
games.
we played Shiloh Revolution games first day at Shiloh, right over there.
Oh yeah,
Shiloh
we
the
did.
first
That was
day.
that one, huh?
Yeah. And that was a great game too. So totally different system.
Much bigger and beefy.
But it was a great game. So
I have to get my son off the bus.
I would play this again in a heartbeat.
I would.
Love to explore a couple of the other scenarios, but I would definitely recommend this.
I
No
would too. I would heartily recommend this, both for its nostalgic value for those who want it, but also for new players who want a very light, introductory ACW game that isn't just like it's got more than it looks on its surface.
Yeah.
Is what I would say.
More than meets the eye here, right?
I think so. Yes, definitely. And then also on top of that, 8 games, eight battles in
amazing.
it. That's good value in it. I know this isn't the cheapest game in the whole
Well,
wide
I'm
world.
sure it probably sells for in the 120s, 130s.
I think so. Now you might be able to get it on sale or
Sure.
discounted from them at conventions for a little bit less than that. But
8 games is
and it's mounted and it's
Yeah,
premium.
it's-
There's
it's
4
beautiful.
counter sheets in here. It's
Agreed.
it's real good, real playable. You're
Yep.
going to be able to get to it. So
Agreed.
Appreciate you very much for tuning in. Blue and Gray Deluxe Edition from Decision Games. I've been Alexander for theplayersaid.com.
and I'm Grant.